There is a ship at the top of the world that does not sail through the ice. It runs at it. It picks up speed across open black water, aims its bow at a sheet of frozen ocean 3 meters thick, thick enough to hold the weight of a city, and drives straight into it at full power. The steel of the hull doesn't cut the ice so much as climb onto it and crush it under the ship's own colossal weight. Then it backs up and does it again and again, thousands of times a voyage. Every one of those impacts is a hammer blow against the hull, and there is one thing on that ship that is never, under any circumstance, allowed to fail. The Weld. This is a nuclear-powered icebreaker, the largest and most powerful class of icebreaker ever built. Russia's Project 22,220. Around 173 meters of reinforced steel, some 33,500 tons at full load, built for one purpose: to break open the frozen sea lanes of the Arctic so cargo ships can follow behind. And to do that job, it carries something no ordinary ship dares to: 2 nuclear reactors, burning in its belly, driving it forward with tens of thousands of horsepower. The crew does not just work on this ship. They live and eat and sleep on top of an atomic power plant that is deliberately being slammed into a wall of ice over and over for months at a time. To understand the danger they've normalized, you have to understand what breaking ice actually does to a ship. When that bow rides up onto the ice and the hull crushes down through it, the entire structure absorbs a shock. Steel flexes. It rings like a struck bell. Do that once and the metal shrugs it off. Do it 100,000 times over the life of the ship, in water so cold it would kill a man in minutes, and you are no longer talking about strength. You are talking about fatigue, the slow, invisible way that metal remembers every blow it has ever taken, until a crack starts somewhere too small to see and begins to grow with each new impact. That is why the hull of an icebreaker is not built like a normal ship. The bow steel runs to something on the order of 50 millimeters thick, several times a normal hull, wrapped in a reinforced belt, right at the waterline where the ice does its worst. And here is the quiet problem hiding inside all that steel. A hull is not one piece of metal. It is thousands of plates, joined together, and the joints are welds. A weld is a place where 2 pieces of steel were melted and fused, and no matter how perfect the work, it is the spot where the structure is most likely to remember a flaw. Now, take that weld and do 2 things to it at once. Cool it down to Arctic temperature, where ordinary steel loses its toughness and turns brittle, the same physics that snapped the plates of the Titanic in freezing water. And then pound it tens of thousands of times with the full force of a 30,000-ton ship hitting ice. A single bad weld, one hidden pocket of weakness, becomes the place a crack is born. And on a ship built to ram, a growing crack in the hull is not a maintenance item. It is the beginning of the end. If the idea of a nuclear plant being deliberately smashed into a wall of ice for months on end is getting under your skin, do an old broadcaster a favor and hit subscribe. We take apart a new colossus of engineering every week, and we always show you the price it's paying, because the ice is only the first enemy. The second one is the cold itself, and it never stops working. Out on the northern sea route, air temperatures fall well past -40, and at those temperatures the rules of materials change. Steel that is strong and flexible in a shipyard becomes glassy and quick to fracture. Lubricants thicken. Metal contracts. Everything the ship is made of gets a little more fragile at exactly the moment it is being asked to do the most violent work a ship can do. The engineers know this, so the hull is made of special cold tough steel grades chosen to stay ductile where ordinary steel would shatter, but chosen to resist is not the same as immune. The cold is patient. It probes every joint, every plate, every weld, looking for the one that wasn't quite good enough. And then there is the third thing on board, the one that changes the entire equation. The reactors. A nuclear icebreaker doesn't use nuclear power for glamour. It uses it because no amount of stored diesel could give a ship enough sustained force to break heavy ice for months without refueling. The newest reactors, the RITM 200 class, sit two to a ship, each one pushing out 175 megawatts of thermal power, enough together to drive the ship through ice nearly 3 meters thick. But a reactor is the one passenger on that ship that assumes the hull around it will hold. Every safety calculation, every containment margin, is built on the promise that the structure protecting it will not be breached by the very impacts the ship exists to deliver. The hull protects the reactor. The reactor drives the hull into the ice. Each one is trusting the other. Out there, alone, hundreds of miles from any help, on a sea that freezes solid. Now, put the cost together, because this is where the real number lives. A ship like this does not come cheap. The lead ship of this class was contracted at around 37 billion rubles, on the order of $1 billion, and Russia is building a whole fleet of them. But the build price is the part everyone quotes and then forgets. The number nobody puts on the plaque is the forever cost. The inspectors who crawl the hull looking for the crack the cold started. The welders who repair the belt steel the ice chewed away. The nuclear technicians standing watch every hour of every day, because the one structure they are trusting is being deliberately battered. You do not pay for an icebreaker once. You pay for it every day it keeps ramming the ice, for as long as you want the Arctic open. And that is the thing the launch photos never say. We look at a ship like this and we see power, the biggest, strongest icebreaker ever floated, conqueror of the frozen sea. But there is no such thing as conquered out here. There is only a structure locked in a fight it can never win outright. Against the ice, trying to crack it. Against the cold, trying to make it brittle. Against the fatigue quietly accumulating in every weld with every single blow. The ship isn't crossing the Arctic because it was built strong enough. It's crossing because someone, right now, is inspecting the weld that cannot fail. Stop paying that bill. Stop the inspections. Stop the repairs. Stop the vigilance. And the most powerful icebreaker on Earth would not sink tomorrow. It would do something worse. It would keep ramming the ice exactly as it always has, looking exactly as unstoppable as it does today, while a crack no one caught grew a little longer with every impact, right up until the voyage it didn't come back from. That's the part they don't tell you about the great machines. They aren't monuments to what we conquered. They're monuments to what we can never stop doing.